on Pantheon and Nico also. So good amount of playmaking coming off the board with some standard picks, I would say.
So for JDG, what is their last ban going to be? Could be... You could look towards the Zinzao if they're not willing to first pick it, but still very popular. Trundle, so the bans are staying very similar here for JDG. For BLG...
Yunara ban?
Yunara is something. Yeah. We haven't really seen Peyz play this champion all that well.
Karma.
It's like they're getting rid of the Karma for potential Ezreal, so maybe this is the Kai'Sa game that we get for Elk here, if that's the kind of lane you're setting yourself up for.
We'll have to see here as the Wukong does get selected as one of those premier junglers left up by this point. Wonder if we're going to see the Zinzao's immediate response, or are we going to get Elk on the Yunara? Hey, listen, I think this champion is very good for damage, but requires a lot of sharpness when you're gonna pilot it, because it is very easy to be caught out and punished. But I do think that Elk is really on it this series. He showed it that Sivir game. Nonetheless, they're gonna get an easy task on the Annie as an explosive fight starter locked into the mid lane.
Also want to remind everybody that Elk is technically 0-2 on the Yunara. One of the games that they played was a really heartbreaking defeat versus Weibo, where they kind of got stomped for a large portion of the game. That was another 50-minute game that they played. And then the last time we saw the Yunara champion, or the first time we got it from Elk, was in that AL Game 3 50-minute game yet again. Big Long Gaming coming on through, so some really easy setup though. Annie is always going to be a premier engage champion for the team, and kind of simplifies the tools and the way that BLG are going to fight.
All right, and we're going to get the Peyz Kai'Sa. So this is, we're eating good for the AD carry talk in this game, without a doubt. Elk looking for his first Yunara win, and then an LPL Kai'Sa in Peyz's hands. Eating good indeed. Looking, though, at what we want to see from the rest of these two comps. If I am JD Gaming, there we go. Galio locked in. I want consistent, reliable, threatening crowd control onto this Yunara, because Yunara needs time, needs protections to thrive. And speaking on that for BLG, yeah, let's lock this Renata in. I already think this is a great Renata angle.
This is going to be a game that's very short range from what we're seeing already. I mean, JDG, with the fact that they have the Galio and the Wukong, and Kai'Sa is going to be great for that. BLG now, so they want to try and fight fire with fire. Get away from the Ambessa, or get away from this Galio, get straight into the back line. I'm a little worried here for BLG, though. They'll have a ton of setup, or a ton of damage here from their champions, but can they ignore or get around this Galio is going to be a very big question. So we get in the second phase. I like the Renekton ban, one of Xiaoxu's best champions. And so what's the second one that we're going for? We're going to get rid of the Cassante. There's still an Ornn available here for Xiaoxu.
I do like, I always like banning Rakan with Wukong. I think those two work together very seamlessly. And again, despite all that front-loaded damage you're talking about, the BLG are going to want to play through the solo lanes. I still think they need to afford protections for Elk. And he's already lost what I thought would have been a really good tool here with the Renata, as they prioritize Bin and Bessa instead. So where do you go here if you're on to try and play a little bit more protect, a little bit more engage?
Could try Nico if you really want to like slam the laning phase, and then you have a massive spike on 6. But they're just going to go for the ultimate, that pick a potential, especially with the fact that you could just press R on Kai'Sa and stop her from ever playing. So very easy dive here coming on through. BLG have a load of damage. What is a jungler here for Shadow? And for JDG, where is the damage aside from Kai'Sa right now? I need to see a strong top laner, and that just doesn't really fit the archetype that we've gotten from Xiaoxu.
And you can't pick Cassante here. You cannot afford to pick Cassante unless you really wanted to pull a split 2 NIP style of, all right, AD carry, you got us, buddy. You got us, right? Damage. Jax. Picking Jackson to bin is a bold claim to make.
Okay, I mean, it's fine into the Ambessa, can really trade with her, especially kind of matching some of her power spikes on 1 and 2 items. JDG are very good with the kind of agency that they'll have from some of their lanes, playing around Xiaoxu, but I just don't think that they have the damage to be able to get through this team. They'll have a ton of crowd control. I mean, Leona plus Jax, you have the ability to say, okay, you don't have flash as this Yunara, you don't have flash on Annie, you're going to die. but we actually need to see them execute, and that has been a huge problem for JDG.
Massive problem indeed. But so okay, so lanes here. I feel like top lane is just going to be so volatile, right? Because mid is kind of Annie into Galio, Yunara, Kai'Sa, like early, not a lot of action. I'm curious to see when we unlock Zhuo and On to kind of get on the map once when we get into that early phase here.
We'll see what the supports are going with, especially you'll see whether or not we are playing more a little bit for the lane. Both of the AD carries, not short range, but you think about what they're able to do in fights, and if you have a spell book, maybe we're looking to play a little bit later into the game. The Jax matchup actually is not bad versus Mbessa, so I imagine we get into a situation where mid is very hard to move away from as BLG. Top lane's going to be going your way. Again, I need to see Xiaoxu step up, because if he wants to be in that conversation for a top 3 top laner and make an all-pro ballot, games like these are going to make or break, I think, from a community perspective, for analysts, I mean, even looking at the Chinese broadcast, if you want to make a breakout split for yourself, I think having a Jax versus Mbessa matchup versus Bin and winning, you have all the tools here set up for your success.
Yeah. And they're going to need to utilize them now if they're JD Gaming. As while it may not be a big thought for this team now at this current juncture, a loss here sends them away from any sort of playoff conversations, and hopefully the home crowd of Beijing will give them a boost as we hit the Rift.
敌军还有30秒到达战场，碾碎他们。
I don't even want to say better. I don't want to say better. That's about the same as what we got in Game 1. Again, crowd mics. Last time I'm going to say it.
Nerfed.
I'm saying last time because I'm expecting this to be a 2-0. All right, we do see, essentially, the AI believes that JDG will win at all points. Now, what did we see in the last game, or in the last one?
The same thing.
Exactly. And then JDG kind of got, they got AD carry diff, not going to lie. So
yeah, I'm gonna steal the point that our awesome producer Kai made with a lower third. Just remember, every time you see that AI graph in a JDG game, that it's technically the noise is coming from in the house on that one. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's all I'll say. Yeah, thank you, Kai.
There we go. There's that lower third. So junglers are on the opposite side of the map, but a lot of vision placed here from BLG, not only to protect their Raptors, but also to see Shun's, knowing that after he moves off of his second camp, they'll know, okay, he's pathing down towards the bottom side of the map. Will mean that Elk and On need to play a little carefully.
And while we have a little bit of a lull with full clears coming across, Elk, I am a bit of a fake AD carry player in the fact that I have not really even gotten much of a grasp on Yunara yet.
What?
But I know you have. Oh, okay, hold on. All right, Peyz is already down cleanse. Okay, we got past that. That's fine. Talk to me, and maybe people haven't got to see too many Yunara games yet, about how this champion progresses through a game.
Well, I really like Yunara in the laning phase for her on-hit passive with her Q. I think she's really strong. Might be able to see a little bit of it here.
Cleanse out
You
of
can get
Elk.
a longer trade, especially with lethal tempo early on. You can actually be very, very potent. She's a champion that really scales as we go later into the game.
Oh, no. Okay.
Kind of abuses Kraken Slayer, which is a very strong item. I think that's why we've seen some of the changes around AD carries and the champions we have seen. Shadow's invading early because he knows he has bot lane prio, and also Knight got to be able to move.
Too, yeah.
Scout has to teleport back.
Okay. Gonna get this red buff done and dusted. Both junglers have smite. It's gonna drop aggro, so all right. Just slow down the clear of both of our junglers, and we're gonna see Shadow make the long walk up to his top side quadrant that is plentiful in camps.
So, two things. one, Elk took a reset here, and that means that the wave is going to bounce into him. He also bought the Cole, which has a really good effect. If we have any Urgot players here, Cole is really, really OP on that champion because of the on-hit passive of 3 HP per hit. When you have the Cole on Yunara, she gets to abuse that passive very, very well. And very similarly, like I was saying, with things like Kraken Slayer and Runons, her on-hit passives just become absolutely insane. So as a 1-item and 2-item spike, she becomes extremely obnoxious. Oh no, Shadow.
Wow, I love this read here from Scout. Shadow's just dead. Scout really locking in on this early game phase where he's been such a question mark for much of this year in.
And now Shadow is really screwed, right? Because he invaded onto the bottom side for the red buff, didn't get it. Shun now gets his Raptors and his red buff. So Shun's in a great spot, and we cannot say the same for his counterpart on Bilibili. Shadow, I think, has jeopardized a large portion of this game now, at least the early game.
Talk about how important it is playing on what lanes have prio in this early game. You saw JDG benefit from that. Okay, hold on, Scout. You don't have enough damage to make this kill, right? Okay, never mind. You talked about, lane priority for invades on jungle camps. You talked a lot about Yunara now as Elk. You're seeing trading into Xiaoxu and how much you can learn from this new champion. All this stuff you can very much so apply to your own solo queue games, folks, at home. And there's no better place to learn how to gain LP than the pros and our sponsor, ProDiff. Use LPL 10 to save 10% off. You can learn from the best in the NACL, the URLs, and even the LTA. And you can get 10% off using our code LPL10, our awesome sponsor here in Split 3. Shout out to ProDiff.
Yeah, been really helpful. Yeah, just try to abuse them because Yunara is getting fixed for this next patch. I don't remember if it was 2016 or maybe 17 where the on-hit application for Yunara actually got fixed a little bit. So they did fix some of her bad interactions because sometimes it wouldn't proc an additional time. But it also made it so that Kraken Slayer doesn't apply twice. Sometimes that would happen with some of her Q bounces. So we are seeing a swap. We'll see how much gold Peyz can get on the top side of the map versus Mbessa. It seems like JDG were preparing a dive. We're going to move away from that as Bin has hit level 6. And that will mean that BLG get a little bit of a load time for Elk on the bottom lane and are able to grab themselves the first dragon of the game.
The storyline to track, though, is how is Shadow going to try and make up this gold hole made here up against Shun, who is, 700 gold. That is almost all the JDG Gaming gold lead here. And it might dwindle a bit as Xiaoxu caught a bit far forward. I would have thought that they'd want to take that trade into him, but TP's now coming out from Zhuo just to make sure that Xiaoxu is under no threat.
That is the point of Spellbook. You can show up on one side of the map, recall, and immediately come down onto the bottom side. So you can see Peyz backing up a little bit.
Whoa, all right.
Really good use of the Q. Are they going to go for a dive? I mean, Shun doesn't have level 6. Once he kill the minion waves, kill the minions, now he hits it. Good timing.
Yep, now they're going after TP coming across from BLG. They're going to go on to on. They're going to allow Elk to kind of stack up and free hits. Turret shots are doing a lot of damage. Xiaoxu has to flash away. Is Elk going to flash after? No, Knight is here first. Land the stun and make sure that the Jax is sent packing.
Okay. Didn't get too much off of that. This taunt does not matter. Shun can come through. Oh, wait a minute, it's mattering.
No, it does. It does matter because Shun pops over the wall and executes him. TP, though, coming behind for On. Elk does not have ultimate yet. Can't transcend. Scout makes sure that Shun gets hooked into the public execution. And Bin gets himself the first kill as well.
This should have been a good spot here for BLG and for JDG to say, okay, look, we got the bottom side dive. We prevented On from getting anything. But, I mean, Elk got that wave for himself. He got some assists during all of this. And even Bin gets involved. He TP'd away from the top lane wave that he had an advantage over Peyz. And JDG now get punished, kind of hand in the cookie jar moment there for them.
Still at about the same gold lead, and they also grab control of the feats of warfare. So for that nice edge the feats of strength can give, they are a bit ahead of the curve in that aspect. But Grubs are now on the map, and with all that chaos, we're at a bit of a weird spot where resets and setups are not as pristine as we expect to see them from LPL teams around these Grubs.
BLG need to be careful though. Right now what's happening is they will have the ability to kind of go onto these grubs now, but Zhuo is 1 minion away from getting level 6, and that is a experience differential between him and On. They're going to play on this next wave. I want to see if maybe JDG are willing to play. You have the Galio ultimate, Knight actually using the Tibbers to force Scout to recall.
6. There's a solar flare online for Zhuo. Second grub secured. On is actually looking to turn here onto Shun, who does not have the Cyclone, but there's a solar flare. On's going to eat the stun. Good Crescent Guard actually knocks Zhuo out of his Zenith Blade onto the other side. Hero's Entrance going to come across, not going to get knocked up on anybody. Elk waiting to hold that Transcendence, but he gets jumped on by Shun. Good cleanse, flash back out, but Peyz hunts him down and finds the trade kill. Peyz with a double, looking for the triple, potentially against Shadow, will not be able to find that trade. JD Gaming spring the trap at Grubs.
No Tibbers, and Scout gets to teleport. That is a huge game changer there for Jindong Gaming. And with our top laners not going to be able to answer, Bin didn't have teleport because he made that play on the bottom side. Level 6 for Zhuo becomes a massive part of this fight. I mean, look again at this. Shun is waiting, there's no damage here, and the wind becomes lightning misses. On can do nothing, and look at Tibbers! Tibbers is far from this fight. He is getting no efficiency from this. Galio gets to join, and then these kills onto Peyz can potentially make or break all of this. A single grub going over to JDG, not bad, but BLG need to reassess how they set up objectives, as this has been a massive pain point for them all year long.
Well, now they're going to go after Bin. Well, Board's going to scout him out, so the dive won't really manifest there. Loving to see that Shun and Zhuo are moving around a lot, though, as a hit squad. I always think that's a huge part of enabling the Wukong. That's why I usually see the Rakan. He can be so slippery and work really well with this champion. But Zhuo trying to buddy up with Shun. Maybe it'd also cover for some of those more aggressive stances he takes, as we saw in that game 1.
BLG, if you can hear me through the ether, we are not playing this dragon in 50 seconds. We have no summoner spells on Elk. On will have his ultimate, but Knight just teleported top lane, and Galio will have ultimate for this next fight. Please, for the love of God, do not fight this. Let's just get gold onto Annie, and we can play the rest of the game. We already got the first dragon.
It's a stall game, something that we talked about a lot. BLG are not too comfortable in. We mentioned the game timer stuff here for BLG. We'll revisit that once we get much later in here. But speaking on that dragon spawning about 10 seconds, I wanted to see if maybe any big items come through here. Scout, okay, so Scout's going to get that first tank item locked in. Yeah, this is, I like this already from Bilibili. They're sacking the dragon, they're taking plates and just trying to catch up a bit in that gold department where they've fallen a decent chunk behind.
Let's just make sure our solo lanes get into a good spot. Annie gets her first item, maybe 2 items. You can be in a really fantastic position in this game. Scout taking the very defensive path through his jungle. Doesn't know that On is here, but he has a lot of stats. I think he should be fine to just walk this out, especially with Phase Rush. How many plates does Annie get? She already got 1. She has 2 grubs, so she's going to get 2 at least here.
Should stop at about 2 and walk out there. Zhuo's going to catch that reset. JD Gaming are trying to collapse on this top side. Good sidestep from Shadow, so he doesn't get stunned by the solar flare, but does have to burn his Crescent Guard. Small price to pay there for BLG.
BLG do lose access to the waves, though. On took a recall and hasn't used his Ghost. They know Shadow's on the top side here. So Peyz gets to crash a wave. Maybe they go for a dive. Maybe they try to push off BLG from some of these waves, get something in return. Considering Knight got 2 plates for himself. Maybe get something for Scout.
This dive seems really treacherous. They got Shadow and On here as well. Dredgeline not going to land. Bot side, I do see some shenanigans coming across from Bin, who has got himself a lot of solo time of his own. But nothing really manifests.
All right. Just some more items to come on through. Peyz and Elk now done with their Kraken Slayers. Some fights between Xiaoxu and Bin.
Here we go. Grandmaster's Might out. Bin, he has Public Execution. He's trying to hold on to it. Flash is available for Xiaoxu if he wants to try and dodge over that ability. Bin maybe thinking he could get it done without that ultimate. Blast Coat coming over. Xiaoxu waiting on the next counter-strike. Bin's going to flash out. Public Execute in. Both top laners have to burn the flash.
All right, so Bin gets a minor advantage here. He knows he can't stay because he won't have seen where Yunara is gone. He does have Sun walking towards him, so seems like Bin's just going to be able to push this wave. All in all, the game's looking pretty even right now. Scout does get himself almost that second plate in the top side. We'll have to wait another wave. It'll be the last one here as we get to 13:30 on the game timer. And for the time being, I like the spot that JDG are in, especially with Shadow's early game still hurting him. 1,500 gold down in this matchup. Yeah. And a very, very strong Wukong, but a single fight can change that. They can grab the shutdowns, or they can look for multiple fights, and Shadow's always going to be relevant in this game just by way of him being the Xin Zhao.
Cole's going to come off the board for both of these ADs now. It's going to be big as we track these two scaling ADs and the fun matchup we have with Elk looking for his first Yunara win, and we'll just Peyz playing LPL Kaisa. I don't need to sell you any further on that one. Plates off of the board like you talked about, Alk. And for JD Gaming, something that we had a worry about them with a lot of this split, which is fighting cohesively, fighting correctly for their setups. And there's no excuses here with the lead that they've gotten. They've accrued for themselves, and how strong they should be around this Rift Herald in about 30 seconds. I still feel like BLG, it's really tough to argue fighting over anything coming up in these next couple minutes.
So, I'm looking at experience right now. Knight will not have level 11 in time for this fight. I don't think it matters. It's 20 seconds off of Tibbers being up and available. Bin doesn't even want a TP. He's going to take control of mid first and allow his team to have pressure over the top side of the map. JDG do not have any way to enter. And with Knight dropping these waves, it seems like Scout's going to answer this first. He'll have level 11 on Hero's entrance, which is not bad. Do JDG opt to fight this when they're having to walk into a Nautilus and an Annie?
They shouldn't. They have first brick for free here on the spot side with Xiaoxu. That will lock them in feats of strength. Do they teleport him in? Yes, they do. On a flank as BLG look for the fight first. Good use of Trickster there by Shun to get himself back out. Joel going to go in to set up the hero's entrance, and they try to blow up Shadow, and they do exactly that. Stun going to land from Xiaoxu. Look at Scout fly into the backline. Elk's going to immediately cleanse, but now he's got to deal with Peyz right on top of him. Both AD carries trading blows, but Peyz is bigger. Peyz is better, and JD Gaming just wiped the floor with BLG.
1 for 5 ace, and they grab the Herald, and they're going to get 2 turrets potentially off of this with the bottom lane and now a top tier 1 for Scout. JDG can do no wrong in this game as the dive composition is working. Shun is untouchable on this Wukong. And so much setup. The dive from JDG working so well. Look at this ultimate from On. He tries to do it onto Shun, but immediately uses the clone, gets right out of to dodge. And what can BLG do? We kind of waited. We're talking about, okay, we're giving up the wave, we're gonna play on this and make it impossible, but no one from BLG is doing relevant damage onto the carries. There's too many tank stats from JDG.
JD Gaming, with their backs completely against the wall, eyeing a potential top 4 spot. They need to grab at least 1 game win here from BLG, and man, what an all-out blitz they have put together in this first 15-minute frame. And now they're going to start really reaping the rewards that will start with this Infernal Drake that BLG have no ability to try and contest. And, well, Alk, we got to start talking about ways we feel BLG can work their way back into this game. And I don't think those combos start anytime soon on the game timer.
They will. They can't even get an objective bounty on top side now because Scout's answering this wave. It's really tough for JDG, or for BLG anyway, to answer. They gave up a lot of resources to get someone like Knight ahead, but that hasn't been working. And Xiaoxu on this Jax matchup, we said that the lane was going to be a little bit more difficult, but I mean, he's been perfectly fine. Bin has not really been able to push some of this Mbessa's power. Now they have the Herald spawning in mid. This will be the mid-tier 1 falling. And with all the jungle camps going behind, I have to imagine the game was kind of ruined when Shadow didn't get anything on red buff and then got invaded immediately. That spelled a lot of really big worry points for BLG, and if there's any point that they can maybe fight, I have to imagine when Elk hits his Yunara 2-item power spike with Runon's Hurricane, that should be a spot for they can play.
Oh, they're collapsing. Going after Xiaoxu. Bin teleports in. Knight does have the stun ready. Layers it down first. Drops Tibbers through. Xiaoxu is picked off here. Question now becomes, do they want to give the gold? Public execution does have to be used here. And wow, that took a lot more time than you thought. And what does JD Gaming gain doing that? A valuable mid-tier 2 turret.
They have to do this, though. They have to be able to at least like ease up on one of the lanes. Say, look, we're going to trade one of our turrets. A second turret, though, becomes really costly. And that is exactly what JDG are going to do. They are splitting BLG across the map right now. Bin should be able to grab this bottom lane tier 1. I say that, though. You see multiple members are coming down, and there's a teleport available for Scout. I mean, we were looking at this. I'll be honest, Slayer, I don't care about this replay. What I care about is that Peyz has finished a Rage Blade already in this game, and that is going to make it very, very unplayable for BLG.
And that may be putting it lightly as we come back to live and see.
Stop. It can still be a 4-0. What? Hey, whoa, 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 whoa. Whoa. What the hell? Hey.
Listen, all right.
Are we even allowed to use that?
I am the one non-admin here. I'm going to take a backseat. You guys got this.
As an admin, I did not approve that. I mean, I'm all for making jokes about me. What? Wait, dude, I guess we already used it, but, you know, I feel like the 50 semi, like, why did he say fuck me for? What did I do?
I mean, hey, listen, it already came up on screen.
Yeah, like, what the? All right, well, whatever. Anyway, JDG can take this Baron really, really quickly. Oh, we're making an engage on the Scout.
We're going on to Scout. We're going on to Scout. Is it going to work too? Wow, all right. Now we're going after Shu with a depth charge. Home wants to keep the pressure going. BLG on the back, for they need to find a way back in. They've got Elk transcended, but they need to get to Peyz, who does get knocked up.
They're doing it!
Timbers dropped on his head. Peyz is down now, and Elk is free firing. JD Gaming collapsed at such a critical point because Otacon is up.
Well, okay. The lower third, we could still get a 4-0 tonight. That's an Otacon going over to BLG. There we go. I need that GIF. I want to be able to use that in my spare time on Discord. I'm sorry, I need that.
Not on live LPL cast.
Maybe not as a lower third, but I do respect that we did it. Either way, Otacon here for BLG, and a massive swing for them being able to grab that, because now they get the bottom lane tier 2. That was also potentially an objective bounty going over to them. So they do lose their inhibitor turret, but that is exactly the kind of find that BLG need to get back into this game.
And they do that without having to sacrifice a ton of key summoners, I would also point out. Elk is still with both of his summoners up, but take us back through this sequence here all first.
So look at where all the rest of the damage, usually what happens is Scout or someone else gets caught, Scout can collapse inward, but I mean, no one from JDG is here, so this is a lost cause, and On finding a fantastic position onto Shun. There is just no ability for JDG to play. Xiaoxu's already late to this. All of the crowd control goes on to Peyz. And that's just the fight won there for BLG, and at an important time as well. They still have a lot of gold and a lot of ground they have to make up, but 40 seconds before this dragon, and now they're starting to kind of make that pace back into this game.
I still want to point out, hold on, Joel's getting engaged now, he's going to try to turn it good. Solar Flare down with the hero's injured, Elk using the cleanse to get himself back out. Here comes the re-engage though, and Scout gets 2 into the counter-strike stun. What a layer from Xiaoxu coming across, and Elk is down, 90% scattered, and Bin has no way to clean up this fight on the backside. And with that inhibitor wide open, JDG, if they can find these last couple kills, they might just silence the comeback with the win right here.
It's only 2 members. It's On and Knight. Knight does not have Tibbers, or I'm trying to see. Yes, Tibbers is up and available. This is just at the end of the game.
Oh, and Scout flashes right on Knight's head, says, no, sir, this game is over. JD Gaming find their one big win. Playoffs is still a reality for this team.
How the hell do JDG of all teams find the shortest game of the split? 23 minutes.
Wow.
What the hell was that? BLG got absolutely clapped.
Hey, listen, the BLG game timer still holds true. We were sub 30 minutes and BLG do not win games. Sub 30 minutes.
Hold up. Let me, I'm going back in the math. So, all right, sub 30. They're 1-1. They're 2-2. They're 2-3.
Oh!
2-4, or 3-4. 3-5. 3-6.
Oh, it's getting
All right,
worse.
they're 3-6 for sub 30 games.
Is that counting this game?
Not counting this game. So
3
now
and
they're
7.
3-7.
Ooh.
All right, so the
Dang.
Goldilocks zone for for
real.
BLG is 30 and 40 minutes.
No excuses outside of that. Yeah. Man. I can't believe that game ended. It's just, you know what's hilarious? This is kind of similar to how, I know that they weren't ahead in this game, but it's kind of like the IG Game 3 where it was like, oh boy, you lost the team fight in the worst spot. They lost the team fight right in front of mid lane where there was a open inhibitor.
That's what you get for making that GIF. That's what you get for throwing an F-bomb on this.
What am I supposed to say? I've lost my co-caster.
I'll just cast from the ether. It's fine.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, from the
Come on, Slayer. Let's close this one out. You know, now
close this one out. We still have
now.
we have a bunch of graphics to run through. We gotta break down some post game stats. Here's what we take away. JD Gaming. You can take away the record for right now. We can ignore Game 3 for a second. They can still get top 4. But boy, does it take a lot of help.
Okay, I wanted to see the official game time. 22:35. That is potentially the second fastest game of the year. First one does go over to JDG versus OMG over in Split 1. That was 20 minutes and 27 seconds.
Oh, Lord.
The second closest one would actually be in Split 1 playoffs, BLG versus Weibo, or sorry, Split 2 placements, FPX versus NIP, 22:47. So second fastest game.
So
Incredible.
What you're telling me is JDG's Goldilocks zone is sub 25 minutes. They're 2-0.
There we go. Just a really fantastically played. Again, have to imagine the game was really hard to play from Shadow in his early game pathing. Not usually a mistake that we see from this player. I know that Shadow got a lot of memes towards him when we saw him first join this team, but I think he's been playing really, really well with BLG just by himself, not just by having so many incredible players around him. But this was a game that we kind of maybe would have expected from him back on FPX, making a lot of early game plays, and they weren't able to properly leverage the bottom lane prio and Annie moving over, so kind of backfiring on them, and then JDG just became way too tanky. This is the only fight that BLG were actually to handily win.
Yeah, and it was a kind of handed to them start to that fight for sure, but just a minute later, or minute 30 later, we fight again, and game 1, there were a lot of mistakes from Zhuo. I think this Leona worked very seamlessly for JD Gaming to start a lot of these engages, because you talked about how ahead Jun was, but it can still be a bit tricky to navigate such a high lead when you're a key engage tool for your team. I think Zhuo did a really good job kind of taking that burden off of the back of this Wukong to carry through with the Cyclone, not having to be the first thing to start every one of those winning fights you saw.
And kind of a head scratcher, because how do JDG now play 2 games that look decent enough that I think they're actually making some improvements here? Even that first game, Scout is playing better. Game 2, Scout is still playing better. If we can keep this up, and that's the biggest pain point, is I've wanted to believe in this JDG roster. Split 2 was an absolute disappointment with the way it ended, but for the most part of the regular season, they were getting it done. Can they actually make it in time for playoffs, though? Can they make it in time for the regional finals? Because I'm looking at championship points right now. JDG are in 7th place. They have 20 points, despite making top 3 in Split 1. An immediate bow out at 8th in Split 2. They need to make massive strides going into this playoffs if if they want any chance of seeing a Worlds qualification.
And it is still just as chock full of pressure having those conversations. But for now, let's all bathe in the glory of Scout getting a player of the game. This Galio was awesome. The way he was able to just aggressively land these double man taunts under that back line of BLG, it's what stuffed out any chance of those fights going the right way.
And a very well-earned MVP for Scout here. There's been some that I've been a bit questioning for, but his Galio was impeccable, and honestly, he did not deserve to lose that last Azir game. So we'll see. Can JDG find a massive upset win? I think that would be a huge win for them, and especially keeping their potential top 4 dreams alive.
Well, we had a nice appetizer to this series courtesy of Bilibili Gaming, but JD Gaming just dine and dash away with our second set. It all comes down to the good old-fashioned dessert, the sweet treat of any sort of LPL English series in the regular split. Game 3 coming your guys' way after our final intermission.